And now it's time. I said and now I said it's time. And now for something completely machinima. And now for something completely machinima. And now for something almost entirely, very precisely, but just not exclusively, sort of adjacently, kind of approximately, complete machinima.
Hello and welcome to And Now for Something Completely Machinima, a podcast about machinima, virtual production, and related technologies. My name is Phil Rice, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Tracy Harwood.
Hello.
And Damien Valentine.
Hello.
Ricky Grove, his camera is still frozen. So we wish him the best and hope his face isn't getting tired from that smirk. But I'm sure he'll be back to unfrozen in no time. So we've got some news to cover this week. There's a bit going on. So I have a whole bunch this time. So I'm going to let my comrades go first here. So Tracy, why don't you lead off with your item?
Sure. I've only got one item actually this month. And I'm super interested to see how this plays out actually. It's the release of the much anticipated Kane Parsons, or otherwise known as Kane Pixels, production of the live version of The Backrooms. Well, I say that, but I mean the trailer announcing the release of it. The release of it will actually be the 29th of May. Gotta say, I think by then, probably the world may have actually exploded in anticipation of what's going to be seen with this film. I actually happened to pick up the trailer on our feed a couple of days ago, actually on the day that it was released. And already by the time I had viewed it, there were over 5 million views of it. And I dropped in just before we recorded this afternoon, and it's now at 11 million views just 4 days later. I think that's pretty unbelievable. Mind you, the original short is now up to 75 million views. So, for Kane's sake, I really hope the film lives up to the hype, but somehow I'm kind of less convinced. The trailer, I have to say, has this kind of Five Nights at Freddy's or Scream feel about it, so it's clearly kind of tapping into that summer horror vibe that we have tended to see being released year after year for the last, I don't know how many years. I think it would be fair to say I'm not likely to be the core audience for it, though. But considering that the whole thing came from a single photograph and a creepypasta thread, I do think it's absolutely astonishing to see the journey that this thing has taken to get to the big screen. And for that, I'm super excited for the creator. I will put the original review that we did to the short when it first came out up on our channel so that you can see the link and the trailer of where it's at today. So yeah, that's my news.
It does look like an intriguing trailer. I'm probably not my movie-going habits wouldn't suggest that I'm the typical audience for psychological horror. However, it's not out of the question, and it looks like if they've attracted some interesting cast members. Like
I agree.
It's not no names, and that's saying something. So I think for me, they're going to have to have crafted a narrative for it to work as a movie. So, and there's lots of user inspired. It's basically the Backrooms itself isn't a narrative, right? It's a canvas. It's a concept of a world, and then users have kind of created all these narratives there. So how did they manage that? Did they come up with something original? Is it going to be derived from, is it going to be some attempt at amalgamation of other stuff? You know, if you think about if someone were to go to make a movie of a video game that has a narrative, then usually the big evaluation is going to be how faithful were they to that, right? Um, so how does it work when the for lack of a, you know, it's not a game. I know a video game was made about this, but
Yeah, yeah,
this is just an empty canvas. This is probably a not dissimilar challenge to what the makers of the Minecraft movie had to do because Minecraft itself only has like hints of a narrative by way of stacked achievements that you're supposed to go through in the game, but there's no characters. And well, that had a surprisingly successful theater run. I don't know how well it will hold up over time. I don't know if it's going to be one of those that we will look back on and call a cult classic. But it was part of kind of a pretty interesting phenomenon in the theaters. How much of that was just a new explosion of post-COVID freedom
yeah.
that happened to coincide with the release? Time will tell, I guess, you know. So, uh, yeah, interesting challenge to come up with an narrative, you know, because ultimately, when you're making a movie like this, it's based on something that 70 million people are aware of or have interest in, then you're just trying to see you know that if you're smart, you know you can't make everybody happy, but can you make enough people happy to where it will turn a profit? I don't know. That's going to be interesting
Yeah,
to see.
yeah. The journey
I
alone is worth the watch, I think.
Yeah.
Mm.
I hope it's successful.
So do I.
Yeah. I'm a bit intrigued by the concept of backrooms, but I haven't really followed it that closely beyond the things we talked about and watching a couple of the videos. Um, they have attracted quite an impressive cast for this, which uh, I feel like these actors aren't desperate for work, so they're only going to choose
Right.
things
My
that interest
thinking
them.
exactly, Damien. Yeah.
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 Um, I don't know
I
if I'll
hope
watch it
that
in the
bodes
cinemas.
well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know if I'll go and watch it in the cinema or if I'll watch it at home. I'll probably see it at some point. But yeah, I don't know if it's because I'm not really invested in it that much, and so we'll see. I'll definitely watch it at home, but whether or not I'll venture out or not, or just wait, I
Right.
don't know.
Mm.
We'll see. But yeah, I hope it's successful. I hope the people who are invested in Backrooms enjoy it and have a great time watching it.
This
The
is kind
thing,
of nerdy, but you know what I would really love to see, and maybe if this is successful, maybe this will follow, is a really well done professional documentary on the phenomenon
Hmm.
that
yes.
pieces together because we've you know a sleuth can go out there and we've pieced together quite a bit just from little
Yeah.
kind of cursory research, but to have a real good documentary filmmaker tell the story of this that culminates in this film, that's much more interesting to me
It
than
is. I
what
agree.
narrative they construct for this. Yeah.
But you know, the thing that I really like, because I was reading the credits for it as well, Kane Parsons has actually managed to be the director of it. Good for him.
That's remarkable. Yeah.
I'm really pleased to see that. Good for him.
Because this is an A24 film, if I'm not mistaken. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're not small potatoes. I mean,
exactly.
that's really impressive that
Yeah,
however that came to be, that should be in the documentary too. That's fascinating.
absolutely. Yeah.
That doesn't happen very often.
That's it. That's all
Damien, what
my
have you got
news.
this month? Yeah,
Right, my
Damien, what have
turn.
you got?
Right, I've got two pieces of news. The first one is Starfield, which is a game we've been following for a while, and we've recently discussed some of the films. Um, Shortly after last month's recording session, and it's usually the case with Realusion doing this to us, um, I kind of mentioned that there was some kind of update coming, but they hadn't revealed any details. Well, they did reveal the details a few days later. There are two expansions coming. One's free, so I'll talk about that one first. It's called Free Lanes, and it's kind of an overhaul of how spaceflight works in the game. So previously, you can take off in your spaceship and you can fly around in space, but if you want to go to another planet, you go to the map and you say where you want to go, and you kind of get this little brief cutscene of your ship jumping into this vortex, and then a brief loading screen, and then you're at wherever you wanted to go. There was no real means to fly manually. Um, it would take a very long time if you tried it. I don't know if it's even possible because of the way the game was designed. What they've done here is instead of that cutscene and loading, there's now an actual gameplay system in place. So you kind of jump faster than light, but you're still in the game. You can get out of your pilot seat, you can walk around the ship, interact with anyone you've got on board, you can do it, interact with any of the ship systems or whatever you want to do on the ship. If you get attacked, an alarm will sound and you can rush to the pilot seat and deal with that. Um, and there's a whole lot of other stuff that they're adding to it. So it'll be quite intriguing to see what that's going to do. And the next thing is the paid DLC called Terra Nomada. And some of this goes alongside the Free Lanes update. Um, Basically, it's a new enemy, which is a group of humans that went off into deep space, and they've come back because they want to conquer um, everything. And they've got this huge army of robots. So there's a new threat, and if you're flying around in space, they can pull you out, and they stop your ship and attack you. Um, and that's a whole new thing to deal with. I think there's meant to be some kind of story with that as well, which they're keeping that very quiet because they want people to experience it. Um, but these two things go well together, is my understanding. And there's a deep dive video which should be included as well, where the developers are talking about this. So they both get released at the same time, which, as we record this, is on Tuesday. By the time this goes out, it'll be available, and Starfield fans will have had a chance to play it. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the Terra Nomada. The trailer for it showed they're showing off parts of the experience of the robots attacking, and there were cutscenes that were not like the cutscenes we typically expect from Bethesda, where it's all straight from your character's perspective. These were cinematic cutscenes, like you'd expect in something like Mass Effect. Now, I don't know if they were made specifically for the trailer, or if that's going to be part of the game when you actually play through that story. And I don't know whether or not if those camera options are going to be added to the tool set. Um, they were definitely filmed in engine. It wasn't a pre-rendered thing.
I agree.
So there must be some capability for it there. So if that is something that users can have, then maybe we'll see some more interesting Starfield Machinima once people figure out how to make
Sorely,
them.
sorely needed.
Oh yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
because since our last discussion of Starfield, I have explored the lack of tools extensively.
Right.
All the console commands, everything. And while Starfield, from a machinima point of view, Starfield has an absolutely astounding photo mode. I think maybe the best photo mode overall that I've ever seen in a game. You can actually change the pose of the character, you can change their facial expression, you can run all kinds of filters and change the lighting, and it's phenomenal. And the fidelity of the resulting photo is spectacular. And it feels like they're just right on the cusp of, okay, so how about a camera that we can actually use?
Yeah.
So I sure hope so, because I thought the same thing, Damien, when I saw the trailer. I thought, man, where are those tools? You've got them. Why aren't you putting them out?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they? Like I can understand if we could like look and see, okay, so there's a clear economic reason why it makes no sense for them to release those because yada yada yada. I just can't fill in the yada 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 there. I don't see any reason that they wouldn't, except maybe that they don't think that there's demand.
But
I don't know.
yeah. And they
So
seem to
I, I
encourage.
I earnestly hope that they will release that because it'll change everything.
Yeah. Well, Bethesda seem to be one of the few developers that actually encourage fans to be creative and create mods. That they
Yes.
actually built that into the game, which a
Yeah.
lot of developers don't do that anymore because the publishers don't want fans creating content when they could make content that could be sold. Bethesda like fans to be creative, so
Absolutely.
more tools for that, even if it's just for for cinematic stuff, you can't make mods with that, but you can make videos and tell stories, which is important. So yeah, we need that. So I really hope it's included. I did see something in the deep dive video about more camera photo mode options. I don't know if that's going to be anything about video, but it's just talking, I think it's more like more character poses and stuff like that, which
Right.
that's good too.
That's good
Uh,
too.
yeah.
Yeah. And
Uh,
hey, for those who don't know, the reason that photo mode isn't a solution for Machinima is photo mode freezes the action in the game.
yeah.
That obviously makes sense for photos, right? But it's you can't use the photo mode camera and settings for moving pictures. So that's what
At
we're
most, you
yearning
get
for.
like soft things will still be animated. Like if you got a character with like a long coat on and it's blowing in the breeze,
That's true.
that's
Yeah.
still
Soft
there.
cloth physics and hair physics, I think, still work. Yeah.
But that doesn't help you tell the story.
No,
Nice to look at,
no.
but yeah.
And you
Uh,
can't capture the video of that. When you take the picture, obviously it's still just a still image. You can't capture the video of that without, I guess you
hammering down
can hide
the
you can hide the interface, can't you? Yeah, you
yeah.
can. So, but it's still that's there's only
Or you
so
could
much
do
you can
it,
do with that.
hammer the take photo button just like that. Like
Right.
that. Which isn't really practical. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I hope we get some video tools there, or at
Me
least it
too.
opens up the possibility for a fan to do something. So I'm excited to play these two expansions. Obviously, Free Lanes is lives up to the name, is free, so you're going to get that regardless. And Terra Nomada looks interesting. The threat, the robotic threat, I'm quite interested to explore that. And apparently, you can get one as a recruit, and it sounds like they modeled him on HK-47 from Knights of the Old Republic, um, which is one of my favorite games, but one of my favorite characters from that game.
I'm trying to remember. It's been a long time since I played that game.
He was the very sarcastic and psychopathic assassin droid that pretends to be like when you first meet him, he pretends to be harmless, like C-3PO. Then you buy him, and then he reveals who he really is, and he just likes
Okay.
killing everything.
That vaguely rings a bell. Yeah.
Yeah. So this new robot that you can recruit to your team in the game, my understanding is he's going to have a very similar personality. So I like robots like that. So we
Like
should have
the
some fun.
whatever the name of the one was in Rogue One and
Yeah,
Andor. Yeah.
K2SO. Yeah,
Yeah. Wonderful.
yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with that. And then the next thing is Fortnite news. Um, and Fortnite and Star Wars news. Over the last few years, Fortnite have teamed up with Lucasfilm and Disney to produce some Star Wars themed events. These have been limited run things where they usually tie in with some release. And I've not tried Fortnite, so I kind of missed. I know I'm a big Star Wars fan, but I don't really find Fortnite as a game that really appeals to me that much. So I have never played any of these things. What they've done is all those assets, even though the events are gone, so if you missed them, you've missed them. That's it. All the assets still exist. What they've done is they have made all of those assets and the tools available to the Fortnite community to use for free. And it's not just a case of you can place them, you can actually use Fortnite to create whole games, which I did not know until I
Hmm.
saw this. And so fans are already using these assets to create Star Wars games that they'd like to see that aren't being made officially, like an interpretation of what Battlefront 3 would look like, because EA won't make a Battlefront 3 for whatever reason.
Hmm.
So fans are doing it using this content, and they can. They've got all the stormtroopers, and they've got vehicles and spaceships. And I saw a couple of things of like someone made like a basic space flight simulator. You've got the Death Star in the background, and there's X-Wings and TIE fighters shooting each other, and you're flying those ships and you multiplayer and all of that. So maybe at some point I'll have to give this a try, but hopefully without the Fortnite bit getting in the way, because
Right.
I don't. That's not really my kind of game. Uh, but I think this is great because you can use these assets and you can make a film with it if you want to. Probably not enough for me to do any Heir to the Empire stuff because they're not going to have all the content I need there. But that's a very specific story. But if you want to create a Star Wars story and you've got your own thing in mind and this covers it, Well, there's another platform you can use for Machinima, and yeah, I mean, another thing. I'm just intrigued to see what people do with it. But that's it. That's my news for this month.
All right, so let me dive into my stack here then. A couple quick mentions that I'll make. One, I found a very nice tutorial. A lot more machinima creators that I talk to are using DaVinci Resolve as their video editor. Not everybody, but more are. Part of the benefit of that one is that there is a free version that's quite capable. The paid one is, if you need those extra features, it's well worth it. I don't regret that at all. But this creator put together a video on how to optimize the settings for DaVinci Resolve, because DaVinci Resolve is designed for originally was designed for professional production studios who have, quite magnanimous resources at their disposal. And by default, many of the features of DaVinci Resolve are set for that. And the result is that performance may not be ideal on your hardware, or it may eat up resources. There's a caching feature that, while very helpful, can eat up gigabytes, I mean, hundreds of gigabytes of disk space if you're not careful. And it kind of can catch you off guard because you don't realize your drive is filling up. He covers all of that in this video and also focuses on the stuff that can make operations run faster. It's very helpful. I've tested everything in there, and some of which I had learned elsewhere, and some stuff was new to me. So we'll include a link to that video in our notes. Headshot 3 is coming. Headshot is the plugin for Character Creator that basically gives you the access to these methods of easily creating unique characters, metahuman type stuff, right? Headshot 1 and 2, the main innovation there was that if you take a nicely lit and properly framed high resolution photograph of a face, it can, sometimes with a little massaging, can convert that into a very workable and accurate looking 3D character. I think the main innovation on that part of the headshot process is that you can now AI generate a face directly in the program if you want to. You can still do the other method, and it is superior in the way that it handles it, but they're basically integrating some of those features to make the end result be easier to create and more accurate. So that's certainly going to be interesting to play with. There's another whole aspect of headshot that I have not played with much, but basically you're bringing in a model and it maps the face to it very accurately. We ought to have Warlord on as a guest or an interviewee at some point, because I think he's played with that a bit more than I do. He designs characters in ZBrush and software like that sometimes, and that's not part of my current workflow. But Headshot 3 looks pretty cool. The only thing I'm upset about it with is that they offer several bundles as part of the pre-launch, and none of them really map to my situation, They've got one where buy Headshot 2 now, and then you get this discount on Character Creator 5 and Headshot 3. But it's like, well, I already have Headshot 2.
Yeah, exactly the same position.
I can't
as you.
find anything that maps to my situation where I've already got Character Creator 4, I've already got Headshot 2. There's no discount for me right now. So the more I see with CC5, the more I'm really drawn towards it. But I think that right now it looks like my best move is going to just cross my fingers and hold out for the eventual iClone 9 CC5 bundle, which is how I got. Actually, it was iClone 7 and CC3 is where, and then you can upgrade smoothly and such. But anyway, the videos demonstrating what Headshot 3 can do are pretty remarkable. They're not Realusion is not slowing down at all in terms of improving their software and making use of various technologies to do so. There's a really nice video for the pre-launch, but there's another one where it actually shows the process. This is by a creator that they used to create a character for Blender. That ultimately it was going to end up in Blender, but they used Character Creator 5 and Headshot to create this character model based on a real person that's one of the producers of the video. And it's pretty fascinating. It's a little bit fast paced, like it's not a step-by-step tutorial, but it's a very nice overview to show what's possible. So we'll include a link to that one as well. Um, in terms of AI, there's some interesting things. One, there is a there's a tool that's just titling itself. It's not the most ambiguous title I've ever heard. They're titling itself Free Mocap, and it is a GitHub project. It is free, and there's a lot of these things that have been floating out there, but all of the ones that I've seen, they tend to be either very buggy or they tend to require kind of a non-traditional setup where you have to manually deal with Python packages and things like that, or it only runs on Linux, or all those limitations. And this one seems to be prioritizing the ease of use for installing and using this, and it is a free program. I believe that the emphasis is video to mocap. I don't think that it's designed to work with markers and such, but it's nice to see these kinds of things maturing, and I think that's what this is a sign of. In that same vein, Nvidia just released or just announced, and it's kind of like in a open public test phase right now. They're calling it Kimodo, Kimodo, and this is it's the only instance of a text to mocap thing that I've seen that is actually free to use. Now, I don't think it's going to stay free to use forever. That just doesn't seem very realistic, but you can go use it as of the time that we're recording this video, you can go use it right now, and it works. Now, the end result motion file is a BVH file, which is you can bring that into iClone and convert it to an iClone motion. It's fairly straightforward to do. I've only gotten about halfway through my testing of it, in that I've generated a few text to motions to BVHs, but I haven't done the iClone part yet. So I basically just plan on that, if not on this channel, then on my channel on YouTube, I will put out a tutorial for that once I've tested it fully. It's an interesting approach to getting some unusual motion types that you might need when you don't have a full-on motion capture rig or a suit, or you're just not getting the right results from video. So it's another way of generating motion that I think is pretty interesting.
Or you want to do something that would be incredibly dangerous to do.
Yeah, that too, right? Yeah, absolutely. So AI voice. So 11 Labs, if you're interested in AI voice at all, 11 Labs has kind of been the go-to place to do that. And part of the challenge with that is that it's a subscription. So there's ongoing expense for it. There are alternatives to 11 Labs, but ultimately you're always paying something, if it's not in the form of AI credits that you can use to generate, or if it's a monthly fee, there's something. But if you wanted to experiment around with AI voice, there is a tool called Voicebox. The website for it's voicebox.sh. And this is a voice cloning and text-to-speech program, but it runs completely locally. It is completely free. I don't know if it will stay free forever, but it kind of sounds like that's their intent. I've actually done a full tutorial showing exactly how this thing works. We'll link to that in our show notes. Take about 30 minutes or so, and I went through the entire process and gave you my honest review of it. For the too long didn't read people out there, it doesn't hold a candle yet to what 11 Labs can do, but it's interesting development, and they seem to be aspiring to replicating the functions that people currently do pay for with Eleven Labs as something that you could do locally. So and for free. So this kind of falls in the open source category.
But would it also
Pretty
solve some
interesting.
of the issues to do with security as well, and ownership of your own voice IP if it's
Yeah,
local?
absolutely. Because you basically can take about 30 seconds of audio of a voice and create a clone and then reuse it. And all of that lives locally on your machine. Yeah. Now, there are
Fascinating.
external resources that you download into the program. The transcription engine, the Whisper transcription engine, you download a version of that in, and then you can download one of several options for the text to speech. And it looks like it's built modularly to where it will support, newer versions of those as they come out. But yeah,
Mm.
everything lives and runs locally on the PC. So interesting development.
Fascinating.
One more thing related to Realusion is just a video that I caught that I think that they shared through their newsletter of somebody who used Character Creator and iClone to ultimately land their project in Houdini, which is a higher end 3D animation, kind of considered traditional 3D animation software that we won't really talk about on here because it's kind of clearly outside the bounds of Machinima. It's a professional tool. It's quite expensive, but the results that they get, and to see that this is all powered ultimately by characters made in Character Creator and iClone animations, and it is just gorgeous. Um, so I don't know what the title of the film is. It's mentioned in their overview, but it's this masquerade dance, kind of Japanese themed. It's beautiful. So we'll include a link to that so you can see that. It's just it's inspiring. Um, I would say leans in the direction of realism, not stylized. And it's just extraordinarily well done. So, all right. So there's one more topic that I want to kind of go through without bogging us down too much, but uh, it's kind of just all hinged on a question, and that is, has AI turned a corner? And what I mean by that, it is more in terms of public attitudes about it. Are they shifting, and should we be surprised at that? Based on everything that we've covered over this time. Um, so I think the event that kind of to me really signaled that okay, something has changed is the fact that OpenAI has announced that probably as of the date that we release this episode, Sora video generation will not exist anymore. And the reason that that's significant is because go back in time 12 months and it was heralded as the Hollywood killer, as the this is going to change everything forever and all of that. It was the tool that of all the video generation tools was probably the one that was the most hyped at being this catalyst for change in the entire way that movies are made. And now they're just shutting it down. OpenAI is not going away. ChatGPT is still growing strong. They've got other things that they're invested in. But whatever the situation is, uh, it there's just no incentive for them to keep it open without the Disney deal that fell apart that they were kind of banking on, I think, for a way to make it not lose so much money. I think is what it comes down to. And why does it lose so much money? Well, not just because of the resource usage, but also because of all the legal issues that result from the way that Sora trains to get its content. It's using copyrighted material, and it's kind of come back to bite them. But does
I
this signal the beginning of a larger trend in that regard? Because if Sora can fall, and that was one of the biggest, maybe second only to like to Midjourney or something like that. Midjourney's had challenges of its own in that regard. So I think it's a big deal.
I remember when we talked about the Disney deal, it was a couple of months ago, and I said it would last about a year
We
um,
were
for
both
the
way
Star
we were
Wars.
both way long in our
Yeah,
guesses. Yeah.
well, when I said that, I thought it would be a year because they'd wait for the Mandalorian Grogu and Avengers Doomsday, and I thought a fan's gonna make something that would be better received, and Disney aren't going to like that. When I said that, I didn't realize that I was going to be so wrong that it wouldn't actually get to public use.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if the Disney deal ended when OpenAI decided to close down Sora. Like, there's obviously some discussion between them that we are not privy to. So I don't know if
Right.
Disney said we're not going to do this, and then it got shut down, or if OpenAI said we can't do this even with Disney, and then Disney backed out. Obviously, there's no point them funding something that OpenAI aren't going to continue running. I also don't know. Right, so Disney invested $1 billion into this. I don't know if they're going to get all of that back. I don't know how much of it's been spent,
Well,
or what
see,
they're going to do
the more
next.
I've read on it, I'm not sure that actually happened yet.
Right. Okay.
I don't think the money actually changed hands. I think the deal fell apart before it was begun, really.
Okay.
That
Because it
maybe there
was.
were some preliminary movements, but when it came time to actually sign, you're right. We don't know who, but somebody said, nah, we're not going to do this. I suspect it was Disney that is the one who pulled back because, as we discussed in that episode, it's like, what is their incentive there?
Yeah.
How do they monetize their end of this? Just having people show up on Disney Plus just to go generate AI video Star Wars, is that enough? Are they going to be able to quantify a result there in terms of more Disney Plus subscriptions that are coming because, oh, and having access to all the Marvel and Star Wars universe is not enough, but being able to create our own AI videos with that stuff is. It just seemed implausible to me. So that's my suspicion, but you're right. We don't know for sure who started it. But maybe the more pressing issue would be why. And I think that it's not simply about the money. It's something that maybe comes before the money. And I suspect that they're noticing the shift in public sentiment, the AI fatigue that's starting to happen because of all the slop that has gone everywhere. And more awareness of that is growing. And we talked about this in previous episodes too, that we wondered at what point is the public going to go, I just don't want to see this anymore, you know? Damien, I think you felt that way about 24 months ago,
Oh yeah.
but the rest
And
of the
it's only
world
gotten
was a
worse
little
since then.
slower. I know, right? So, but I hear people that have nothing to do with technology. I'll overhear conversations in restaurants and people talking about, yeah, it's all this slop, all this AI garbage. I mean, it's part of the conversation. So I have to feel like at some point that becomes big enough to where the company realizes I'm not putting $1 billion down to
Yeah.
towards something that everybody's already starting to move past, you know? So is there
Hmm.
any other evidence of that? And so I
There was
kind of went looking.
Microsoft. They were putting a lot of money into AI, and they've massively scaled back.
Hmm.
Because initially the current CEO, I forget his name off the top of my head, he was saying, "Oh, AI is going to be great," and then like 2 or 3 months later, they were really massively scaling back because no one's using their AI tools for anything. And it's the same with Nvidia. They've been really pushing AI, and they've got this new DLSS 5, which is supposed to use AI to fill in frames to make things faster. Um, and it's just been massively rejected by pretty much everyone. Like they showed off some games that they didn't actually use request permission from the companies, but they put it through their filter. And the fan reaction from this is saying, "Well, this looks terrible. This looks like AI slop. It's not. We want to see the original vision of the artists who made the games. We don't want to see it put through a filter to look photorealistic, especially if that game isn't designed to look photorealistic."
Right.
And so Nvidia have been trying to say, "Oh no, it's not like that. It's going to be wonderful and all that stuff." But the reaction to that has been so negative. And I see it with other things as well. It's like people are completely losing interest in AI generated content.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
However, I do think, because I was just looking up who have they partnered with subsequent to the Disney deal, and they partnered with Amazon, Nvidia, and SoftBank, and in that intervening period, they've raised 120 billion in funding, which to me indicates they're going more for base models and linking in a corporate ecosystem, I would suggest. So I don't think they're going anywhere soon. I just think that
No, I don't think OpenAI is going anywhere soon, but I think specifically
the Disney
video
things,
generation, I think is they're basically someone has decided this is not where we want to put our efforts anymore.
well, I think they
And
could
I think
stay
that there's
ahead
some
of
differences.
the kickback if they partner in the way that they have now. Why would they be linking with Amazon? It's got to be to do with the work stream rather than the
Yeah,
actual
Amazon has they have a customized version of what is essentially ChatGPT at its core, but that they
yes.
use in-house. And uh, apparently, the employees have been told that use of that tool, there's a name for it that I can't remember now,
Is it
but
Azure
they
or something like that? I
it's
can't
something
remember.
short, but I can't remember what it's called. But they've been mandated. It's mandatory that it be used, and even then they're getting pushback.
Yeah,
I don't know how connected that is to this, but I think that if you have revulsion to one use of AI, it's inevitable that it's going to bleed over to attitudes about AI generally, which maybe is harmful because I think tools like ChatGPT and Claude, I mean, there's just no question that they are
impressive.
part of the future. They're very impressive. And
Yeah,
when you set AI to do what it does well,
yeah.
it's a game changer for sure. It's
But from
the
what I
areas.
understand, in terms of the next steps of advance, I mean, there's a couple of big next steps in computing from my understanding of it. Nvidia, for example, is going into robotics. So,
Mhm.
so to me, if what you're looking at is they understand animation and they understand animation in a 3D context, to me, what they're doing would make perfect sense as a match for the next big step that somebody like Nvidia is
Right.
taking. And that's not filmmaking, that's actual animation of robotic things.
Yeah.
Through
And it's
things in
I
3D.
think as significant of that, it's not AI as the outer skin that we see.
Quite,
It's AI underneath. And
quite.
I think that's where the trend will go. And if you look
Yes,
at how
yes,
Realusion has been making use of AI in theirs, it's not out in front necessarily. It's incorporated as a component
exactly.
that you can optionally not use, right? But it's there. I think that to some degree, Adobe, if you look at the way they integrated AI powered features into
Yeah,
Photoshop with
yeah,
generative fill and things like that, that was successful.
yes,
Whereas when they put out a separate product for just raw AI generation and output, that's not doing as well. That's not being embraced on a larger scale. They're really struggling to get artists to accept that. But those same artists will fire up Photoshop and they're using AI and don't even know it. So I think that that's ultimately where the destination for this will lie. As far as the
yeah,
public attitudes, it's interesting to see some other coincidental
yeah.
events. There's a French Canadian duo called Angine de Poitrine. They're from Quebec, from a small town in Quebec, and they've exploded onto the scene. And there's two guys, two people, a guy with a double neck guitar, bass and guitar, and a rack of pedals and a looping machine, and a drummer. And they're both extraordinary musicians. And the guitars are both tuned to use microtonal intervals. So they're not standard A440 intervals. They're not keys you can play on a piano. They're in between those pitches. Very strange sounding and almost at first listen, it almost sounds like, wait, is this guitar out of tune? Well, it is, but quite deliberately and calculatedly so, you know. And it's this live performance. The performers wear costumes. You don't have no you can't see their faces. You can only see their I think the only flesh visible is painted hands and feet. And it's really all about the performance, the human performance. There's nothing electronically driven about what they're doing. I think it's not a coincidence that that type of thing, even though it's kind of strange and it's a very strange sound, right? But I think the fact that it's human driven performance is part of why that's being embraced. I think the success of Project Hail Mary is interesting. Uh, you know, for especially in light of if we go back in time 12 months, oh, Hollywood's dead. This movie is just rocking the charts and it's really, really good. It's a really good movie. And I don't know. It's interesting stuff. Um, NeuralViz, who we love, who you know is actually has been using AI video tools to create really interesting stuff. Uh, he paused his Patreon back in October and hasn't made a video since. Now, as he describes it, it's just fatigue of the solo creator. He's been really pushing it hard and needed a break. But I can't help but wonder, we've speculated sometimes about what kind of pushback is he probably constantly running into from people who just regardless of his excellent looking result, the idea of AI being used in that way is just it's not growing in popularity, that's for sure, you know. So I can't help but wonder if that's part of the fatigue of kind of feeling like it's just constantly uphill and public sentiment is not changing on that. So I'm wondering, is he rethinking not just how to manage his time so he doesn't burn out, but also is this the most effective way for me to be making stuff? It's a speculation, but it is
Interesting.
interesting that these things are happening so
It's
close
the
together.
it's the George Lucas effect. I don't know if that's what it's really called, but one of the reasons he sold Lucasfilm to Disney was he was so exhausted of every time he did something, fans hating it and saying, "This is you've ruined Star Wars and my childhood yet again," and with whatever this latest thing is, and it's fine, whatever he's done. It's just not what they grew up
Mm.
with. So, he got so tired of that he just couldn't deal with it anymore, and he wanted it out of his life, so he sold it to Disney. Um, so yeah, if you're using AI to create content, you're going to get a
But there
growing
is a,
amount
my
of
point of
people.
view, there is a whole lot of irrational response to this. Whole lot of
Oh, I
irrationality.
agree.
And it truly makes not a lot of sense, actually, because these are tools that, AI has been used within tool sets that we've commented on for donkey's years. And all of a sudden, it's like, no, no, don't want to use that, can't use that, not interested in that.
I
And
would say oh, sorry, go ahead.
well, I find it disingenuous from so many folks to sort of comment in the way that they are without actually really fully understanding what these tools are capable of doing. So I don't have an awful lot of time for this kind of irrational negativity without actually seeing the quality of the work that some people are actually doing. And I agree, there's an awful lot of shit and slop that we see on YouTube, but it's not the only rubbish that we see on YouTube.
And we're actually
And
going to review a film here in a couple weeks that is a great example of just extraordinarily wonderful
yeah,
use of those tools. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, so I don't get
Well,
the response to it. I understand some of it, but not a lot of it, if I'm honest. And I have to say, the debates that I'm kind of seeing being had around IP and the way that governments are trying to think about and think around the issues around copyright also don't make an awful lot of sense to me. There's just not an awful lot of proper thinking about what creatives need to do to get their work out into a domain where an audience can see it and can then choose to buy it or invest in it or commission the artists or anything like that. Because the way it's evolved, it's been so anti and negative that these people are never going to get their work in front of an audience because it's just not going to be anywhere that's usefully discoverable. So what are they doing? Shooting themselves in the foot, in my view.
Well, I
That's
think
a
it's because
controversial view, I know, but that is my view.
people are just exhausted of AI generated content because there's so much of it and they're so easy to produce that it's just automatic revulsion to any of it, no matter how good it looks.
I
Because
don't
they just
accept that. I really don't accept that. They are just anti for the sake of being anti without any logic.
Well, I think that
You can search for content, you can spend some time doing it. We spend hours doing what we do with this channel. We are looking for stuff that we want to review, and in that process, we discard a lot of stuff that we don't want to touch. And some of it is more purely AI generated stuff, and some of it is using it embedded within the tools that have been used in the creative process.
yeah,
We make a choice.
I think it's helpful to frame this as such because I think that while some of the reaction is over the top and irrational, it's also not new.
No, it's not new by any means.
Uh, Impressionism as a painting style was a direct reaction to the introduction of the photograph. And it was a sense of, at that point, there became a divide. Those who really liked this new technology and those who said, we've got to change and we're going to make things in a way that a photograph can't do anymore, right? And so you end up with Van Gogh. I think that the same type of thing, it's a little harder to figure out to line that up around the advent of motion pictures. But when motion pictures first debuted on the scene in the early 20th century, it looked like it was going to fail immediately. It just looked like no one was going to go along with it. And there immediately was a vaudeville revival, live performances, people on the stage. And this argument ensued of that's superior to anything you could put on a screen. This new technology is going to ruin everything if we let it. And that divide happened. The same thing happened when electronics became a part of music.
Yeah.
And when MIDI came around, there was immediately, right after electronic music emerged in the 60s or 70s, then immediately there was a folk revival. And all of a sudden, James Taylor and Jim Croce and all these acoustic artists and folk music was beloved more than ever by some as a revulsion against or a rebellion against the role of electronics. But what happened in all those cases was eventually there was convergence, and it wasn't total dominance of one technology over the other. There was a coexistence that ended up happening. And it may be overly optimistic, but I think that that's what's at the end of this AI battle. Ultimately, will be a convergence and a kind of a peace made of where these things, can be used. And it probably will happen faster with AI than it did with these other things because everything seems to happen faster now than it did at the time that Van Gogh started painting, So, but yeah, I think that's part of what's going on is it's just a normal reaction, particularly acutely in the art world, reaction to radical technology. And whatever else AI is, and it's radical technology for sure, like maybe the most that we've ever seen. So,
And the most accessible probably that we've seen.
Yeah. And which, if you think about it, okay, so when photographs came around, it wasn't that immediately anyone could go out and get a Kodak disposable at their drugstore, right? But eventually that's what it became. And then so one could take a position there that, well, that just means that now the world is filled with all these disposable photographs. And then in the digital age, it got even more so. I've heard comedians joke in stand-up routines about that, when I look back at when I go to my grandma's house and she shows me old photos, it's events, it's things and families and stuff. And when people go back and look at my phone in the future, when I'm a grandpa, they're going to see pictures of my food, you know.
Yeah. Or if you
So,
lose your phone, nothing at all, because what is the other thing they say? That
right,
we're
because
going to
it's
be the
also
only
intangible.
generation that have nothing to show for what we've done in our lives. Nothing.
Yeah.
Because you switch a
Well,
computer off and it's all gone.
whether this is ironic of me to do or not, I thought an interesting thing to do would be to gather all this information and feed it into ChatGPT
Uh-huh.
and see what ChatGPT had to say about it. And so I posited, here's my theory, here's what I'm citing as that. Tear this apart or tell me I'm wrong or tell me I'm right or whatever, but how do you assess this information? And the response was kind of interesting. Um, First of all, when ChatGPT began its response, it said, "Here's a possible title to put to this if this were going to be put into an article or something." And the title that it used was December 2025 to March 2026, the moment creative AI lost its inevitability narrative,
Oh.
which was interesting, right? So here's the bullet points basically of what it went through. It says the sea change is not that AI is disappearing from creative industries, it is that the center of gravity is shifting from replacement fantasies to controlled backstage and disclosed use. I think that's just like so good. Normally
Mhm.
AI writing is just like horrible. I've got
Mhm.
this I've got this friend who for whatever reason he's decided that his Facebook feed is now going to be chat GPT renderings of his philosophical thoughts, and it's just like so obviously AI, but sometimes they come up with pretty interesting stuff. So it goes on to say audiences and institutions seem more open to AI as an assistive tool than as a substitute for authorship, performance, or artistic identity.
Mhm.
Sora's shutdown, platform authentication tools, disclosure labels, copyright pressure, and visible backlash to AI first film projects all point in that direction. And then it said a few caveats to keep in mind. One, this is something Tracy mentioned just a few minutes ago. There is still heavy investment in AI creation tools and training ecosystems, including AI film education and dedicated AI film festivals. So this is not a one-way collapse story. Second thing, some of the strongest evidence here is about distribution, trust, and rights management, not purely about taste. So it's kind
Yeah.
of pushing back a little bit on my theory that the public has finally totally had enough. And this is Project Hail Mary is best treated as a supportive cultural signal, not a direct referendum on AI, which that's fair. So
Um,
interesting, interesting
Mm.
so
stuff.
that's twice you brought up Project Hail Mary, and the only thing I can think of is there's no AI used to make it, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah,
They
for me, Project Hail Mary was more of the fact that because AI generated video by its mostly by its Twitter slash X supporters has been positioned for like 24 solid months as this is the end of Hollywood. There will
okay, I
never
get it.
be
So
any big and guys who review movies on YouTube that I follow, and they talk about kind of with remorse that, well, we're never going to see movies like this again. Talking about some movie that was made 10 years ago or whatever. We're never going to see big budget movies again. Well, that's not the conversations going on in Hollywood offices right now, I would bet.
no.
I'll bet there's
Mm.
a whole bunch of sci-fi projects that are getting looked at now because
Oh, I hope
they're
so.
trying to figure out what about this made it so good. It's not just that it was sci-fi. That
They
helped.
they didn't even use a single green screen for it. Like for the outside stuff, they used the volume like in The Mandalorian. They built a real set of the outside of the ship, so he's up there. Obviously, for space, you can't build that, so he had the LED screens around him to create all the lighting and everything. And even when he's outside and you've got the astrophage, the camera, and all this stuff, that wasn't CGI. They put a water tank in front of the camera and they put some stuff in it. So those particles are actually floating around in the water. And I think they put a purple light on it or something
Yes.
to get that effect. So it's very old school effects, but they wanted to make it as practical as possible. I think the only
Do they call
CGI,
that retro futuristic, mate, is what they call that.
Yeah,
I think,
and yet the result is stunning. Like it's
Mm.
better looking than CGI. So,
I think
Mm.
the
but
only
I
CGI,
think those decisions were a direct reaction to.
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
the only CGI I could tell was CGI was when they're talking outside and the thing explodes in the background because the explosion is so massive that you probably don't want to set off that many explosives near
Yeah, yeah,
your
yeah.
film set. But
Yeah.
I think that was the only CGI thing that was
Yeah. I think
obviously
there was certainly some compositing going on, but it's not the way that, say,
Star Wars.
James Cameron makes,
Oh yeah,
with
Mm.
actors with the points all over him in a big green room, or the way some of the Star Wars sequels were made too, because
yeah.
that's just the way things were being made. And so it is interesting that for a pretty major film that they would say we can still do things another way and get great results. And on top of that, all that would have been great, but if it wasn't also paired up with a really well told story, it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
Like it
The,
wouldn't have
the
even been noticed. So it's a lot of things converging at once for that film.
the thing about Project Hail Mary, if you watch that in 20 years, the way they did effects, that's still going to look stunning. If you watch Phantom Menace now, that CGI looks awful.
Yes.
When they're doing the promotional videos for the Star Wars films, they usually miss out the prequels because the CGI has aged so badly that it's either the original trilogy or the new stuff, and that you maybe get a couple of shots of the prequels in just to show completeness,
Yeah.
but it just doesn't age well.
And
So
isn't it funny how, because you and I both remember when those first came out, when the first trailer dropped for Phantom Menace, and it was like,
yeah,
whoa, it
yeah.
was it was way ahead, right? So that's really interesting how time changes our way of looking at that. Yeah.
Mm.
Well,
I still haven't seen it.
Project Hail Mary.
No, and
Oh,
I
if you
really
get
want
the
to.
you
So
don't.
Yeah.
I do want to see it,
Oh,
but I
yeah.
haven't yet.
It's
It's a
worth catching
mystery,
on the big
so
screen if you can.
yeah,
Yeah.
try and avoid as much as you can. It's a mystery, and you learn about stuff as the main character does. So go in as spoiler free as you can.
Okay, well I'll try.
It's emotionally gripping too.
Oh yeah,
Like it's
Mm.
not just some hard sci-fi thing or something. It's got real heart. Yeah.
It's a.
Yeah.
Do you know the weird thing about that? I kind of knew you were going to talk about Hail Mary. Is because your pick, Damien, the egg that we're going to do as our next film discussion is actually by the same author
that's
Yes,
why
I
I
think
as.
chose
that's
it.
why, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, so okay, so there's the connection, is there not?
that was
Yeah,
on
Andy
purpose.
Weir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I look forward to that in a few minutes.
Okay.
All right. Well, that is our news for this month. Audience, what did you think of what we talked about? Let us know in the comments or drop us an email at talk@completelymachinima.com. I keep getting distracted because some Starfleet officer keeps walking behind Damien.
Yeah,
Uh,
I did tell her to go away, but she
you
keeps
need to
doing
tell them we're
her
filming
rounds.
right now. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
she's half Klingon. You don't really want to annoy her too much.
I
Oh,
understand.
gosh.
I understand. Well, that's all for this week. My name's Phil Rice. On behalf of my co-hosts, Damien Valentine and Tracy Harwood, we wish you a great day and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye bye.